said it.
You probably was listening to a different program.
You keep bashing his personality, that he loved women and that's all he was about was sex.
Okay, here, Omar, listen. We want to have a dialogue with you. We want to have a dialogue with you. So, but we'll have to go back and forth. So let us just tell you what we have claimed, and then you can respond to it. We don't say Muhammad was a sex maniac. What we say is that he told, so we're looking at Islam from, we're not Muslims. We're not raised to believe that Muhammad is a prophet and whatever he did was okay. We're trying to evaluate him to see if whether he is someone that we should believe and trust as a messenger of God. And what we find when we examine Muhammad is that he told his followers that they could only have 4 wives. So he tells all other Muslims, you can only have 4 wives, no more, no more. You can have 1, 2, 3, 4, or none. That's it. And yet we know from Muslim sources, from al-Bukhari, from all kinds of other sources, that Muhammad had at least 9 wives at one time. So we look at this and we say, this is awfully suspicious. So this is a concern for us. We also look at the fact that Muhammad was having sex with his slave girls. So Muhammad's having sex with his slave girls. He even impregnated one of them. We also find that Muhammad's wives were offended and upset with him for sleeping with his slave girls when he should be sleeping with one of his 9 wives. They objected to him, and Muhammad gave an oath, okay, I'll stop sleeping with my slave girls, and then he gets another revelation saying that he can go on continuing to have sex with his slave girl despite the fact that he made an oath to his wives. We find Muhammad walking in and seeing the wife of his own adopted son almost naked, and he walks out praising God because of what he's seen, and then Allah starts giving him revelations saying, you get this woman. We find Muhammad having sex with a 9-year-old girl. We find Muhammad in al-Bukhari telling one of his followers, Dia, hey, you go into that town, of all the women captives we took, pick any one. And he picks a woman, and when Muhammad hears about her great beauty, he says, actually, she's for me. She's for me. If she's the most beautiful one, she's for me. You go pick someone else. So over and over again, we find some revelations that are very suspicious. We don't say, oh, he's a sex maniac and a pervert. But what we have to say is if we're evaluating whether we can trust this man, over and over and over again, we find very suspicious revelations that when we consider when we consider the revelations that we believe in, we don't believe in God as a person who just wants to take his prophet and give him as many sexual partners as he wants. What we find in the Bible is that God calls his servants to a very high standard of morality. So what we're saying is it looks very suspicious that every time Muhammad has a desire, Allah gives him what he desires. And again, don't say, hey, we're accusing Muhammad of this. If you're going to get angry at us for saying it looks like Muhammad is getting whatever he desires, you have to get mad at Aisha as well, because Aisha herself noticed this. Aisha herself said, your Lord hastens to satisfy your desires. And that's what we're saying. But go ahead.
Yeah, what I'm seeing on this TV show is that you're getting it one-sided. You know, there's a beautiful sentence in the Bible in Proverbs 16:16 that says, how much better to get wisdom than gold. The wisdom is, you know, what about Moses? How many wives? How many of Jethro's daughters did he marry? If you look at Abraham,
only one.
Abraham, wait, you're cutting me off. You're giving it one-sided. I let you talk. Now let me talk.
Go ahead.
Now let's talk about Abraham. Abraham married a slave girl. Abraham married Hagar. Okay, he had Hagar and Sarah, right? And Jacob had, how many wives did Jacob have? How many wives did David have? How many wives did Solomon have? You're giving it one-sided, okay? All these prophets, all these men of God had more than one wife, and they had slave girls, okay? So if you're bashing Prophet Muhammad, you should look at the other prophets, okay? You're giving it one-sided, okay? And another thing. Omar, one thing, because you say one more thing, so you're going on to another topic. Let me just respond briefly, and then we'll give you a chance to respond. You say we're only giving one side because we're not looking at the other prophets. Well, guess what? We never said Muhammad had 4 wives, therefore we condemn him. That's not what we said at all. We said he told all of his followers as a revelation from God that you can only have 4 wives. And then he had more. That's what we're pointing at. Moral inconsistency. You do one thing and I get to do something else. All of you have to follow a rule, but I, God's greatest prophet, I don't have to follow that rule. You get a certain number of sexual partners, I get more. You get 4, I get more. This is what looks
awfully suspicious. And if you don't see why it would look suspicious to us, that the very man who is receiving the revelations is the one who happens to get more sexual partners than anyone else. And that this man, even though he tells his followers they have to keep their oaths in most situations, if they don't have a good reason for rejecting it, that this person who tells his followers they have to keep their oaths, he gets to make an oath to his wives and then not follow it. He gets to promise a specific woman to one of his followers and then take her because she's beautiful. He gets to arrange a marriage. He gets to arrange a marriage with his adopted son and then take the woman if he wants. That's what we're saying. And you don't see that from Abraham. You don't see that from David. You don't see that from Moses. You don't see that in the Bible. So we're not applying different standards. It's Muhammad who applied different standards. So if you're condemning us for applying different standards, no, we're applying one standard equally. It's Muhammad who had different standards for other people and for himself. But go on to your next point.
Okay, my next question is, okay, we're going to look at the whole history, okay? You're just starting at Muhammad. Let's talk about the whole aspect, the totality of the circumstances, okay? The Gregorian calendar starts with the departure of Christ. As you know, obviously, as a Muslim, we do not believe he died on the cross. He rose to the heavens, okay? Now, let me get this straight. Muhammad came 507 years after the departure of Christ, right? In between then, right, the biggest empire on the face of the earth was the Roman Empire, right? Okay? It was a paganistic empire. They had goddesses and goddesses. They had Apollo. They had Nike. They had Africa.
What happened? What happened?
Hello?
Did his phone die?
They probably dropped the call.
Omar, if you're watching, get on a better phone and call right back. We want to hear this.
Did we lose him?
Yes, we lose him.
Omar, call back in the phone booth. If Omar calls back, please move him to the front of the line.
Okay.
Right. You want to comment on his the Roman Empire was paganistic?
We don't know what his point was. Let me tell you what we do know.
He's saying that you are claiming that the Arabic Peninsula were pagans, also the Roman Empire was a pagan empire.
Yeah, now let's clarify. If you want to say that some practice of some festival or holiday that Christians practice, so let's say Christmas. Let's say lots of Christian families will have lots of Christian. Oh, okay. Well, let him. Is he on there? Omar, are you there?
Cut off. You see, I knew I was going to get cut off, David.
What are you talking about? If we wanted to cut you off,
we just told you to call back and give you to.
Okay, let me start when I started about the Roman Empire, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
What was the last thing that I said online? Because I don't know, because my TV was off.
All we got to was Romans believed in different gods and goddesses.
Okay, yes. So Constantine the Great was the first Roman emperor to accept Christianity, okay? But, he did a lot of innovations, because you're talking about a gap of 570 years from Jesus to Muhammad, okay? In the year 321, he changed the Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday, okay? And
no, that's not true.
Thou shalt honor thy Sabbath in the Ten Commandments, okay? And
Omar, you're mistaken there.
Innovation that is in the Bible, in the New Testament. Every time it keeps talking about the Sabbath, the Sabbath, the Sabbath. Why does the Sabbath, as a Christian, why do you follow your religious day on Sunday? That's what my question is to you. You're talking about Muhammad did this, Muhammad did that. Let's talk about the history. Let's talk about the history. There's a 570-year gap between Muhammad, peace be upon him, and Jesus.
Omar, can I comment?
About that on that show.
Do you want me to comment now? First of all, you're mistaken when you said that Constantine changed Sabbath observance from Saturday to Sunday. There's actually writings that predate Constantine. You can actually look at the writings of the church fathers and the apologists, and they'll tell you that Sunday was adopted early on because that was the day in which Jesus Christ was raised from the dead and was victorious over the grave and death. But I'm kind of surprised that you're saying that Sabbath is mentioned everywhere in the Old Testament and New Testament, but somehow we Christians innovated and changed Sabbath to Sunday. But the Quran also mentions the Sabbath as an observance that Allah gave to the Israelites, Beni Israel, but then your prophet comes and changes it to Friday. So by your